Hi everybody, it's been a while, I know. In this video, let's talk about how to fix broken switches. I know we talked about something similar like this, but just recently, because somebody contacted me who had a couple of problems with his pinball machine, I actually got some ideas for some other stuff that I would like to tell you and that I would like to talk about. The thing is, there was this one guy who contacted me because he has some problems with his Whirlwind pinball machine. And the problem is that all of the drop targets, and I think one or maybe two of the stand-up targets, stop working. They don't work. Well, he said sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Yeah, let's just talk about what can you do, what could be the reasons if something like this happens to you. So, first of all, we have already discovered in one of my other videos, as soon as there is multiple stuff that stops working at the exact same time, it means that the stuff itself, like in this case, the drop targets, aren't really broken. The problem has to be something with the wiring or the electricity or something like that. Like in my other video where I was talking about the broken EOS switches on my Judge Dredd pinball machine, we have already figured out it could be a loose cable. So if you have a problem like this, you should definitely search for a loose cable in your pinball machine. But what kind of a cable? Like you've seen, there are probably a few cables that are loose, but it's completely normal. So what kind of a cable are you looking for? Well, you have to download or you have to get the operator's manual. If you don't already have it, go to ipdb.org, search for your pinball machine right there, and download the operator's manual as a PDF file. So that should help you because we need something which is called the switch matrix that I was already talking about in one of my other videos. And when there is multiple stuff that isn't working, we have to figure out if there is something that all those broken things have in common with. Maybe it is a broken fuse in your case, but in his case, I don't think that it's a broken fuse because he told me that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So if it's a broken fuse, it wouldn't work sometimes. So yeah, we can already eliminate this in his case. We have to figure out if all those things have something in common with. So in his case, we figured out that all the broken switches, or all the switches that aren't working, are connected to the same wire, which is a green-yellow wire coming from plug 1J8. And I think the wire is connected to pin number 4. And yeah, that's probably something that is causing the problem. But the thing is, since those were drop targets, he had a little problem to understand how exactly it worked because he was really confused by the fact that when he hits the drop targets, they don't pop back up in the gameplay. But as soon as he started to perform a coil test, the drop targets popped up. So he thought, actually, they are working. They're just not working when I'm playing the game. So what the hell is up with that? Well, the thing is, with drop targets, there are two different sides. There is the mechanical side, or the pop-up mechanism, which is just one coil that is being activated to pop the drop targets back up, and that's actually working. And then there's the other side, which is the electricity or the signal side, because there is the side that is telling the pinball machine that the target has been hit. You know, the target needs, the pinball machine needs to get the signal. But if there's something wrong with the wiring or with the electricity, the pinball machine doesn't recognize that this target has been hit. So even if it can pop the targets back up, it doesn't know that the targets are really down. You know, it's kind of like with your arm when you have an operation on your arm and you have some painkillers injected, so you don't feel your arm, but you are still able to move it. You know, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, but there's the signal side, and you have to understand how those targets work, because there's, you know, think of those targets as some kind of Christmas lights. You know, only difference is if one light breaks down, it doesn't mean that all the lights stop working as well. It just means that the broken light and all the other lights that are coming after this broken light aren't working anymore. Well, when it's a loose cable. You know, let me just draw it on a piece of paper to make you understand it a little bit better. So I hope this will help you. So I know this is pretty basic because it's just a piece of paper, but I hope it's working. So let's just say that this is our back box. You know, where all the circuit boards are. This is just the side of the back box, you know, this thing right there. So there we have this one cable. In this case, it's the green-yellow cable coming from the back box, going to the first switch. From there, it's going on to the next switch, and from there it goes on to the next switch, and so on. So this is basically the wire that is supplying the electricity. So it's sending the electricity to those three switches, or targets in this case. You know, but then each switch has a separate cable. I think they are white, that are going from the switch back to the back box again. So let's say this switch has a blue-yellow cable going into the back box, this has a blue-brown cable going into the back box, and this one has a blue-gray cable going into the back box. So the electricity is now on all those three switches, but it's not going this way because the switch is still open, you know, like that. But when you hit the target, the switch is being closed and the electricity is going not only this way, but also this way. And as soon as there's electricity on this wire and on this one pin, the pinball machine knows, okay, this target has now been hit. So it does whatever it's doing, you know, playing the sound, lighting the target, giving you the extra ball, giving you the points or whatever. You know, and if this target is hit, and he knows, oh, now there's electricity on this pin, which means this target has been hit. You know? But if this cable would be loose right here, or it would be loose right here, so that the electricity doesn't even get here, it means that this target isn't working, but also those targets aren't working, because where the hell are those targets getting their electricity from if the cable is already loose right here or right here? You know? And that's basically the whole deal. And with drop targets, the mechanism is a little bit different. You know, you don't just have like this contact where you say, okay, the ball is coming this way, and when you hit the target, it means that the contact will be closed, you know, like that. This is an arrow, by the way. So that's not the case. In drop targets, we have those things called opto switches. Those are basically just nothing else but U-shaped, how do you say, light barriers. So there is one LED in here, which is the sending LED, which is sending some kind of infrared light, and on this side there's the receiving LED, and up here we have our drop target. So if the drop target gets hit, the target falls down, and therefore the target interrupts this infrared beam of light, and he doesn't receive the infrared anymore, the receiving LED, so he knows, okay, target is now down, target has been hit. But this stuff also only works if those switches or the circuit board where this opto switch is connected to has electricity. So again, if there is something wrong with the cable, no electricity going to the opto switch, how does he know that the target is now down? He doesn't know it, and therefore it doesn't work. So yeah, it's pretty basic, pretty simple, I know that, but I don't want to make it too complicated because I still want you to understand what we're talking about. Yeah, let's get back. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but I want to keep it simple. So yeah, loose cable. So see if you can find a loose cable, or check out the switch matrix and search for this particular cable that has something to do with those broken switches, and see if it's loose on one point. Maybe the plug isn't pushed in correctly on the circuit board, maybe something like that. But since he told me that sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, I don't think that it's really so much a loose cable. I think it is a broken cable, so that the cable is broken on the inside, so you don't really see it. Kind of like with old headphones, sometimes when the cable is broken and you stop hearing something on one side of the headphones, so you start moving the cable around, trying to find a position where it still works. Yeah, maybe it's something like this. And when you play pinball and you notch the pinball machine a little bit to keep the ball in play, maybe this is moving the cable, and that's why sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, because the cable is broken. Maybe that's also something that you have to look out for. Another thing could be maybe a burnt plug or something, because once a plug has been overheated a little bit, so that the plug starts to look brown on the circuit board in the back box, the electricity also doesn't flow correctly anymore. There is kind of like, I don't know, a buffer or something that lowers the electricity flow. I recognize that on my Demolition Man. There is like this one plug which is supplying all the electricity for the lighting of the playfield, and I realized when I turn on the machine, the lighting of the playfield, or the lights of the playfield, they are a lot brighter at the beginning than at the end. So after a half hour, I realized, hey, the lights are getting kind of dark. And the longer I was playing, the darker the lights got. And that's not a good thing. Turned out that it was just an old contact or old plug, which looked also a little bit burned, like somebody put a lighter to it for 1 second or something. So I replaced that plug, and since then it worked perfectly fine. So yeah, maybe replace some old burned or used plugs when they really look brown and kind of like they have been overheated a little bit. Yeah, but not just dirty, just really like the plastic looks like it's been burned a little bit. Yeah, this What else? Well, maybe the problem is something totally different, because we have those plugs, and those plugs are plugged into those pins on and those connectors of the back box. So those connectors, each pin is soldered to the circuit board. But especially on those old pinball machines, it could happen that the solder starts to age. And when the solder ages, yeah, when the solder is aging, it starts to actually shrink. And then there will be a point where you lose contact, the electricity doesn't flow anymore, you have something like a broken soldering point. Maybe that's also the case. So maybe you have to unplug everything, take the circuit board out, and just resolder all those connections, and maybe then it works again. That's pretty much all I could think of, but I think in his case, the problem is that there is this 3-bank drop target, and there is like this little circuit board where those opto switches are connected to, and usually there is a connector, and usually the cables are plugged in with a plug, but there are no plugs, and there's also no connector where the plug could go in. So some previous owner decided to solder the cables directly onto this little circuit board, onto this 3-bank drop target board. And that's definitely not the right way to do it, to solder the cables directly onto the board. And I also couldn't really see if the soldering job was at least acceptable. Like some people put a lot of solder on that stuff, and then it's flowing into the other solder, and then you have like basically two cables. It's like two cables touching each other, creating some kind of a short circuit or some confusion basically. And I think this could be the case. And what also confused me is that in the manual it said that there are sometimes 3 connectors on this little board, left, middle, right, or from your angle, left, middle, right. But in the operator's manual it said that only the middle one is installed and the left and right one aren't installed. But for some reason the cables aren't connected to the middle, they are connected to the left side or right side, but not in the middle like it says on the manual. Kind of crazy, but I don't want to get too much into that. Yeah. What else? Yeah, maybe it's really just a loose cable which is producing a short circuit somewhere. I used to have that problem too. One of my friends has replaced, believe it or not, pinball machine, and there we had the problem that sometimes in the multi-ball the 2 lock balls weren't ejected. The coil that pops those 2 locked balls back into the game wasn't working, but at the same time we had some problems with some of the targets. So turned out there was a little loose cable on this coil, and this cable was, sometimes it had contact and it created some kind of a short circuit, which also caused all the other problems with the targets. So definitely check out all the connections, all the soldering points, all the wires. Could be something like that. And yeah, that's it for now. Video is already long enough. I hope I could help you a little. Leave a comment, subscribe to this channel for more pinball videos, and see you again. Bye.